Now, does the prosecution want to cross-examine?
Dr. Best, you realize that you are one of two witnesses who have been called out of possibly hundreds to represent the Gestapo before this tribunal, don't you?
Ja.
And you realize that your credibility is very important, don't you?
Ja.
You understand as a jurist of long standing the significance of the oath which you have taken.
Ja.
You stated yesterday, I believe, that your publication, the German Police, was a purely private book and had no official status. Is that correct?
Ich habe gesagt, dass es sich um eine reine Privatarbeit handelt, die ohne jede Fühlungnahme mit meinen Vorgesetzten und ohne Kenntnis meiner Vorgesetzten entstanden ist. Meine Vorgesetzten, damals Heydrich und Himmler, haben von dieser Arbeit erst durch die Vorlage des fertigen Buches Kenntnis erhalten.
The question is whether this book of yours was or was not an official publication in any respect. Was it or wasn't it?
Nein, sie war keine offizielle Veröffentlichung.
I ask that the witness be shown the ministerial blot of 1941, page 119.
Yes.
Now you will note there, Dr. Best, that published in the ministerial blot for 1941 is a circular of the Reich Ministry of the Interior referring to your book. And you'll note that it states that the book is for officers and officials of police, state, party, and municipal administrations. This book represents a reference work which can also serve as an award for worthy officials. It is recommended that this book be acquired, especially also by the libraries. And then the distribution is to various Supreme Reich authorities. You see that there, don't you, Dr. Best?
Jawohl, ich kann dazu sagen, dass diese Empfehlung längere Zeit nach dem Erscheinen des Buches veröffentlicht wurde, übrigens ohne, dass ich dies vorher wusste, und es ist diese Empfehlung nicht anders zu bewerten als die Empfehlung anderer Bücher, die bereits erschienen sind und die man nachträglich als gut und brauchbar anerkennt. Ich betone aber nochmals, dass ich vor der Veröffentlichung des Buches weder mit meinen Vorgesetzten noch mit der Stelle, die diese Empfehlung später veröffentlicht hat, irgendwie darüber gesprochen habe.
Now I want to invite your attention to your book, Dr. Best, and particularly page 86 of it. You testified yesterday concerning the development of the Gestapo from the pre-existing political police agencies, and you'll find that you say in your book as follows, and I am now quoting. in order to build up an independent and powerful political police force, the like of which had not hitherto existed in Germany. Regular officials of the former police force on the one hand, and members of the SS on the other hand, were brought in. With the uncompromising fighting spirit of the SS, the new organizations took up the struggle against enemies of the people and the state for the safeguarding of the National Socialist leadership and order. That is the correct statement of how the Gestapo came into being, isn't it, Dr. Best?
Ich habe dazu zu sagen, dass der Anteil der neu in die politischen Polizeien aufgenommenen Kräfte zunächst sehr gering war. Ich habe gestern gesagt, dass eine gewisse Zahl von Angestellten neu eingestellt wurde. Es kamen dann später unter den Anwärtern, die sich für die reguläre Beamtenlaufbahn der Geheimen Staatspolizei meldeten, weitere Angehörige der SS hinzu, sodass die Darstellung meines Buches durchaus richtig ist. Es ist aber nichts über das zahlenmäßige Verhältnis gesagt und ich kann heute noch einmal sagen, dass die Zahl der normalen Beamten, sowohl der von früher her übernommenen alten Beamten wie der aus der Schutzpolizei hervorgegangenen Beamtenanwärter die größere war gegenüber den aus der SS eingestellten Kräften.
All right. You said yesterday that you opposed the use of torture by the Gestapo in connection with interrogations, and that you called Heydrich to account about that matter, didn't you?
Jawohl.
And you called Heydrich to account as his superior, didn't you?
Ja.
But you didn't prohibit Heydrich from continuing his practice of using torture in interrogations, did you?
Ich war nicht in der Lage, meinen Vorgesetzten an Maßnahmen, die er befohlen hat, beziehungsweise die er durchführen wollte, zu verhindern. Dazu kam, dass ich mit der Exekutive innerhalb der Geheimen Staatspolizei nichts zu tun hatte, da ich ja Verwaltungsbeamter war und infolgedessen nicht dazwischen geschaltet war, wenn Heydrich solche Maßnahmen anordnete oder genehmigte. Ich kann nur sagen, dass ich in der kleinen Sparte der Abwehrpolizei, die ich kommissarisch eine gewisse Zeit geleitet habe, die Anwendung dieser Methode verhindert habe.
I want to pass briefly to your experiences in Denmark, Dr. Best, and by way of preliminary, I wish to refresh your recollection as to the testimony which you gave before the Commission on the 8th day of July, 1946. This appears on transcript page 2412, the English transcript. Question: have you met Naujax? Answer: Naujax was in Copenhagen once. Question: and what was his task in Denmark? Answer: he did not give me any details. I only know that he asked me to provide a connection for him with the research office in Copenhagen. Question: anyway, you have no idea why Naujax was in Copenhagen, do you? Answer: I imagine that he was in Denmark on matters pertaining to intelligence service duties. Question: and if he were to state and even to testify that he discussed the matter with you, you would say it was only a lie. Answer: I would say that I could not recall it, and that in my memory he is retained as an intelligence service man. Now, you were asked those questions and you gave those answers before the commission, didn't you, Dr. Best?
Ja.
Yes, and when you gave those answers, you knew that you were telling a deliberate falsehood under oath, didn't you, Dr. Best? Now, you can answer that question, yes or no, and then explain it if you like.
Ich habe inzwischen von dänischen Beamten das Protokoll...
Minute. Wait. Answer the question. Do you or do you not know whether you were telling the truth then?
Die Aussage war nicht richtig. Ich habe inzwischen das Protokoll Neuyorks vorgelegt bekommen und habe dadurch mich wieder genau erinnern können, dass er mir allgemein seinen Auftrag genannt hat. An Details erinnere ich mich auch heute nicht.
Well, now, just so that you'll remember that interrogation that you had with Dr. Kalki of the Danish delegation 2 days later, on the 10th of July, 1946, I'm going to ask that you be shown the written statement which you corrected in your own handwriting and signed with your own signature. Now, I invite your attention to the first paragraph, Dr. Best, in which you state as follows, quote, "Now that I know that Naujax has testified as to his connection with the terrorist activities in Denmark, I am ready to testify further on this subject. If I did not testify about this earlier, it was because I did not know whether Naujax had been captured and had confessed regarding these things. It was contrary to my feelings to drag him into this thing before the facts were known to me." You gave that statement, didn't you, Dr. Best? And that's your signature on that document. Yes.
Ja.
Now, Dr. Best, you knew very well when Naujax came to you in January of 1944 that there was planned to be carried out by the Gestapo terroristic measures against the people of Denmark, because you attended the conference in the Hitler's headquarters on the 30th day of December 1943, at which that plan was worked out, didn't you?
Ja.
Yes. And at that conference, there were present, in addition to yourself, Panke, the higher SS and police leader for Denmark, General von Hanneken, the military governor for Denmark, and Hitler, Himmler, the defendant Kaltenbrunner, the defendant Keitel, the defendant Jodl, and Schmutt. You reported those names in your own diary, didn't you?
Ja.
Yeah. And you know that at that meeting, it was agreed that in order to counteract murders and sabotage against German interests in Denmark, that the Gestapo was to go up to Denmark and to carry out ruthless murders and to blow up homes and buildings as a countermeasure. Don't you?
Es ist nicht richtig, dass eine Übereinkunft hergestellt worden sei, sondern Hitler hat Befehle erteilt gegen den Widerspruch, den ich und auch Panke gegen diese Pläne erhoben haben.
Yes, Hitler gave the order to Himmler, who gave it to Kaltenbrunner, who gave it to Muller, who set the Gestapo into action, and you know that those murders and that this willful destruction of property was carried out in Denmark as a result thereof, don't you?
Diese allgemeine Tatsache war mir bekannt.
Yes, and you know that these were carried out because you protested about some of them. For example, you remember when these thugs blew up a streetcar in Oden, killing and injuring the passengers in it, don't you?
Ich habe in der Folgezeit immer wieder aus verschiedenen Anlässen gegen die Anwendung dieser Methode protestiert, indem ich entsprechende Berichte oder Telegramme an...
You haven't answered the question. You haven't answered the question. The question was, did you know that a streetcar had been blown up?
Ich erinnere mich an die einzelnen Fälle nicht mehr genau und weiß deshalb nicht mehr, aus welchen einzelnen Anlässen ich meine Proteste erhoben habe. Ich weiß aber, dass ich es in sehr vielen Fällen tat.
Well, now, Dr. Best, I know that you have a very short memory, but I would have thought that you could have remembered from the events that you recited on the 10th of July, 1946, if you will look at your statement there that you gave to Dr. Kalki, you will find the following. I used as such an occasion the blowing up of a streetcar in Oden, for instance. Don't you see that there, Dr. Best? The statement that you gave on the 10th day
Verzeihung,
of
wo
July.
steht das?
You will find that on about the middle of the document. Go up there.
Halt, das ist eine falsche Übersetzung. Ich habe gesagt, die Sprengung eines Straßenzuges in Odense, das bedeutet, dass in dieser Straße mehrere Häuser gleichzeitig gesprengt wurden. Es handelt sich nicht um einen Wagen, sondern um einen Zug von Häusern.
Well, now, Dr. Best, you also remember the murder of 4 doctors in Oden, which you protested because those doctors had been pointed out to you by National Socialist circles as being German sympathizers, don't you?
Ja,
Ja.
im Übrigen war das nicht der einzige Grund. Ich habe nur auf die verstärkte Sinnlosigkeit dieser Maßnahme hingewiesen, indem ich einen Teil dieser Ärzte als deutschfreundlich festgestellt hatte.
Yes, and that was a terrible thing for the Gestapo to murder German sympathizers in Denmark, wasn't it? There were so few. Well, now, to whom did you make your protests against this murderous activity of the Gestapo?
Meine Proteste sind regelmäßig an das Auswärtige Amt, das ja das mir vorgesetzte Ministerium war, gerichtet worden.
Yes, your protests went to the defendant Ribbentrop, didn't they?
Commander Harris, have we got a reference to any document which records the meeting of the 30th of December 1943?
Yes, sir. This is in evidence through the official government report of the Danish delegation, Exhibit RF 901.
RF 921?
901, sir. 901.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Now, yesterday, Dr. Best, you testified that you learned that the Einsatzkommando of the security police and SD in Denmark was opposed to the Kugelerlass, didn't you?
Ja.
Well, now, who in Denmark told you that this Einsatzkommando was opposed to the Kugel-Erlass?
Das sagte mir der Leiter der Exekutive, Dr. Hoffmann.
Yes, Dr. Hoffman. He was the head of the Gestapo in Denmark, wasn't he?
Der Gestapo-Abteilung bei dem Befehlshaber der Sicherheitspolizei.
Yes, and when did Dr. Hoffman tell you this? Approximately.
Ich kann mich nicht genau daran erinnern, ob ich jetzt erst durch das Zusammensein mit Dr. Hoffmann an diese Tatsache wieder gemahnt worden bin oder ob die einzelnen Maßnahmen, die damals abgelehnt worden sind, mir jeweils gemeldet wurden. Es kann sein, dass es eine neue Kenntnis von mir ist, die mir bestätigt hat, dass man den Erlass niemals angewendet hat. Es ist kein Fall dieser Art vorgekommen.
Well, now, Dr. Best, you just got through saying in your last answer that Dr. Hoffman told you that the Gestapo was opposed to the Kugel-Erlass in Denmark, and that he told you this in Denmark. Now, is that true or isn't it true?
Ich habe nicht gesagt, wann und wo ich das erfahren habe, sondern ich habe nur gesagt, dass der Erlass nicht angewendet worden ist auf eigene Veranlassung der Polizei. Ich habe nicht gesagt, wann und wo man mir das gesagt hat.
Well, what was the Kugel-Erlass?
Ich weiß heute, dadurch, dass ich einige Akten und Protokolle gelesen habe, dass es sich um Maßnahmen hinsichtlich, ich glaube, entflohener Kriegsgefangener handelte.
Well, now, when you were asked about your knowledge of the Kugel-Erlass before the commission, you didn't say anything about having had a conversation with Dr. Hoffman about it, did you?
Ich bin nach meiner Erinnerung nur gefragt worden, ob ich damals während meiner Amtsführung den Kugel-Erlass schon gekannt hätte. Ich habe ihn damals nicht zu sehen bekommen und habe ihn, ich glaube, dass ich das erwähnt habe, erst jetzt hier gelesen.
If the tribunal, please, I have two documents which I would like to offer into evidence at this time. These documents have come to our attention and have been made available only in the last 2 days. Consequently, it has been impossible for us to present them to anyone speaking for the Gestapo before the commission. And I think that this witness can assist in identifying some of the names. And I would like to ask the permission of the tribunal merely to show these documents to the witness. They're quite long, and I will then try to summarize them as briefly as possible and develop what can be developed out of them in the shortest possible time, perhaps 15 minutes for both documents, sir.
Yes. Go on, come on, Harris.
Then at this time I offer into evidence R178. Which becomes USA 910, and I ask that the document be shown to the witness. This document was captured by a combined British-American documents exploitation team and sent to the prosecution from the Air Documents Research Center in London. It contains detailed correspondence concerning a complaint about a certain Major Meinl against the Gestapo officers in Munich, Regensburg, Nuremberg, and Fürth over the screening out and murdering of Russian prisoners of war. I ask that the witness turn to document F, which is page 7 of the English translation. You will note, witness, that this is a report from the Gestapo office in Munich, in which it lists 18 labor camps screened by the Gestapo, showing a total of 3,088 Soviet prisoners of war screened, of which 410 are screened out as intolerable. You will note, following page 8 of the English translation, that the 410 Russians sorted out belong to the following categories: officials and officers, Jews, members of intelligentsia, fanatical communists, agitators and others, runaways, incurably sick. You will note on page 9 of the English translation that of the 410 Russians so sorted out had been executed at the concentration camp at Dachau at the date of this report. On page 10 of the English translation following, witness, you will find the following, namely that these 410 Russians screened out at Munich represent a percentage of 13%, whereas the Gestapo officers at Nuremberg, Fürth, and Regensburg screened out an average of 15 to 17%. This report, which is signed by Schirmer, states, quoting, right at that same place, "I wish to refute most emphatically the complaint of the High Command of the Armed Forces that the screening of the Russians had been carried out in a superficial manner." Now, witness, do you know Schirmer?
Nein, der Name ist
All
mir
right,
nicht
then.
bekannt.
Then I want you to turn to document G. This is a report from the Gestapo office in Munich complaining about the attitude of Major Meinl. And on page 13 of the English translation, you will find the statement that Meinl was thought to have complained to the High Command of the Armed Forces that the Russians had been superficially screened out. Now, you will note that a report was made against Major Meinl by the SD, in which Meinl was reproached with having shown, to some extent, aversion against the National Socialist creed. For example, he mentioned God, but not the Führer, in an order of the day.
Where does that come?
Sir, you find that on page 13 of the English translation, in the middle of the page, sir. That was a mark of a bad National Socialist, wasn't it, Dr. Best? One who would put God before Hitler.
Ich weiß nicht, welche Frage ich beantworten soll. Ich darf zu dem ganzen Komplex betonen, dass ich Ende Mai 1940 aus meiner Stellung im Hauptamt Sicherheitspolizei im Reichsministerium des Innern ausgeschieden bin und infolgedessen über diese Dinge, die im Jahre 1941 spielen, in keiner Weise Bescheid weiß.
Well, then turn to document G, page 15 of the English translation. You will find this sentence. Experience, however, has shown that the Russians can be compelled to work only by the utmost severity and the use of corporal punishment. And now, pass to document H, Dr. Best. This appears on page 17 of the English translation. This statement. Furthermore, I pointed out to Major Meinl that the work of the Gestapo employment detachments was done with the consent of the High Command of the Armed Forces and according to rules which had been drafted in collaboration with the High Command Department of Prisoners of War. Now, this document is signed by Schimmel. Was Schimmel known to you?
Schimmel? Ich sehe den Namen Schimmel nicht, aber ich erinnere mich, dass es einen Regierungsrat, glaube ich, dieses Namens in der Geheimen Staatspolizei gegeben hat.
Turn to document J then, page 21 of the English translation. And at the end of that, you will find that Meinl, in giving his reply to the accusations made against him, stated, quote, "When I mentioned that it weighed heavily on the officer's conscience to hand over the prisoners, Regierungsrat Schimmel replied that the hearts of some of the SS men who were charged with executing prisoners were all but breaking." And now, on document M, witness, which is page 26, you will find a notice that the Reich Commissioner for Defense was informed about these murders and approved of them. Now, this was for Defense Area 7. Do you know who the Reich Commissioner for Defense was in Defense Area 7 who approved these murders?
Ein Reichskommissar? Ach, es ist gemeint der Reichsverteidigungskommissar.
Yes, the Reich Defense Commissioner. That's what I said.
Der Reichsverteidigungskommissar im Wehrkreis 7 ist mir nicht erinnerlich, da ich in jener Zeit aus dem Reich fort war und außerhalb der Reichsgrenze Dienst tat.
All right. Now the report goes on to cite many other cases of the screening out of Soviet prisoners of war by the Gestapo for execution. That is, by local Gestapo offices within Germany proper. And I do not wish to take up further time about that, but I wish that you would turn to document T, witness, because I want to make evident the result of this conflict with Major Meinl. Document T is a teletype from the Gestapo office in Berlin, and it states, quote, "The prisoners of war who have been screened out," pardon me, page 37, sir. Quoting, "The prisoners of war who have been screened out will be transferred to the Buchenwald concentration camp as the High Command has decided in a conference today. Will you please inform the higher SS and police leader today about this, and also that Meinl is getting a different assignment." Now this teletype emanated from the RSHA Office 4A. Now that was the Gestapo, wasn't it, Dr. Best?
Ja.
And you see it was signed by SS Obersturmbannführer Panzinger. Now you knew who Panzinger was, didn't you?
Ja, das war der Vertreter Müllers.
Yes, and he was the head of this department 4A, which was charged with the handling of opponents and sabotage, assassinations, protective security, and matters of that sort, wasn't he?
War Abteilungsleiter 4a. Was in dieser Abteilung alles bearbeitet wurde, ist mir nicht erinnerlich.
Well, you can take my word for that. That appears in document L219 for the tribunal's information, which is already in evidence. And now I wish to offer the other documents. There are 5 documents here which are a group, sir, and I will offer them in order. 4050 PS becomes USA 911. 4049 PS becomes USA 912. 4052 PS becomes USA 913. 4048 PS becomes USA 914. 4051 PS becomes USA 915. These documents have just come to us from the Berlin Document Center, and we have not yet been able to obtain the originals. They sent to us only the photostatic copies. We have requested the originals, and they will be here, we are assured, in a matter of days. As soon as they come, we would, with permission of the tribunal and approval of counsel, substitute the originals for these photostatic copies, sir. Now, Dr. Best, turning to document 4050 PS first, you will see that this refers to this same SS Oberfuhrer Panzinger. This is apparently a Foreign Office communication in which it says that Panzinger reports that various changes have been made in the preparation for the matter discussed, and that he has promised us a plan for the execution of our proposed action. Now, if you will turn to the enclosure, which is document 4049, you will find just what this plan was. You will see there that the plan was to transfer 75 French generals from Camp Königstein, in the course of which one general by the name of Dubois was to have a misfortune, namely his car was to break down in order to separate him from the others. This was to provide the opportunity to have the general shot in the back while attempting to escape. You will find that this document goes on to recite all of the details of completing this murder, including this interesting statement that a decision has yet to be reached whether or not the burial of the urn should be carried out with military honors. And it goes on to say that the questions will be looked into once more by the SD. Now, this is a basic report of November 1944. Now, if you will turn to the next document, 4052.
Shouldn't you read the last paragraph on page 2?
Yes, sir, I will read that. Quoting, protecting power investigation, it will be assured through the selection of the persons concerned and the preparation of all documentary evidence that in the event the protecting power is desirous of an investigation, the necessary documents are available for dismissal of a complaint. Thank you, Your Honor. Now, turning to the next document, witness, which is 4052 PS, you will find again the reference to this infamous SS Oberfuhrer Panzinger. You see, witness, Panzinger had been promoted by this time. That he states that the preparations in respect of the French generals had reached the stage where a report concerning the proposed procedure would be submitted to the Reichsfuhrer SS during the next few days. And you will find that he again explains this method of murder, and he says that they will carry it out by one of two methods, either by shooting during escape, or secondly, through poisoning by carbon monoxide gas. Now you will notice, witness, that at the end of this document, it shows that it was prepared for presentation to the Reich Foreign Minister, Mr. Ribbentrop. Now, the next document is a particularly interesting one. It is document 4048 PS. This document is dated December 30th, 1940.
Was Ambassador Ritter the ambassador in Paris?
A witness. Was Ambassador Ritter the ambassador in Paris?
Ich weiß es nicht mehr, das muss vor längerer Zeit gewesen sein, als ich die Besetzung der diplomatischen Posten noch nicht kannte.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
I'm informed, sir, that he was a liaison officer between the Foreign Office and the Army. I'm not sure of that, however. Well, passing to document 4048 PS, here's where the whole plan is laid out in summary form, and I would like to read this briefly. This is addressed to the Reichsfuhrer SS, and it says, the discussions about the matter in question with the Chief of Prisoner of War Matters and the Foreign Office have taken place as ordered and have led to the following proposals. 1. In the course of a transfer of 5 persons in 3 cars with Army identifications, the escape incident occurs when the last car has a flat tire. Or 2. Carbon dioxide is released by the driver into the closed back of the car. The apparatus can be installed with the simplest means and can be removed again immediately. After considerable difficulties, a suitable vehicle has now become available. Other possibilities, such as poisoning of food or drink, have been considered but have been discarded again as too unsafe. Provisions for the completion of the subsequent work in accordance with plans, such as report, abduction, documentation, and burial, have been made. Convoy leader and drivers are to be supplied by the RSHA and will appear in Army uniform and with pay books delivered to them. Concerning the notice for the press, contact has been established with Geheimrat Wagner of the Foreign Office. Wagner reports that the Reich Foreign Minister expects to speak with the Reichsfuhrer about this matter. In the opinion of the Reich Foreign Minister, this action must be coordinated in every respect. In the meantime, it has been learned that the name of the man in question has been mentioned in the course of various long-distance calls between Fuhrer headquarters and the chief of PW Matters. Therefore, the chief of PW Matters now proposes the use of another man with the same qualifications. I agree with this and propose that the choice be left to the Chief of Prisoner of War Matters. Now, by whom is this letter signed, Dr. Best?
Es steht darunter, mit Schreibmaschine geschrieben, gezeichnet Dr. Kaltenbrunner.
Yes. Signed, Dr. Kaltenbrunner. Now, we will pass to the last document, 4051 PS. This is a report on a telephone conversation which carries us to January 12, 1945. And it says, that repeats that this French prisoner of war general is going to die an unnatural death by being shot in flight or by poisoning. Subsequent matters, such as reports, post-mortem examination, documentation, and burial, have been taken care of as planned. It says that the Reich Foreign Minister's instruction states that the matter is to be discussed with Ambassador Albrecht in order to determine exactly what legal rights the protective power could claim in this matter in order to make our plans accordingly. Now, who was Ambassador Albrecht?
Das war der Leiter der juristischen Abteilung im Auswärtigen Amt.
Now, did you know, Dr. Best, that General Mesnay, the French General Mesnay, was killed on this road at about this time?
Ich weiß gar nichts von dieser Sache, denn ich war in jener Zeit in Dänemark tätig und habe nichts von solchen Ereignissen erfahren.
That concludes my cross-examination. The tribunal, please. However, I have two